Folks, welcome back to Raw Rants. Old friends, you know who I am. My name is Stefan Thuringer. New friends, welcome. Today we have a really, really cool episode with somebody who is quite the international. His friends call him the Marseillais, and he'll talk about that in a bit. What he's basically saying is he's a nut job. He is currently talking to me, which I'm very, very grateful and honored for, from Barcelona in Spain. If you haven't been to Barcelona, we're going to talk about Barcelona a little bit. It is most certainly one of those bucket list cities you got to be at. He describes himself, when you look at his bio, he's a fintech entrepreneur, first of all, and has been in that business for a long, long time. One of the companies that we all know a lot about, and that company has various different divisions and dimensions to it, is Virgin, Sir Richard Branson's company. He's worked for a long time for Virgin Money. He calls himself the Chief Pencil Officer today. One of the things that connect him and I is soccer, football, the European version. And he ended up in Barcelona via Jordan, Amman, London, UK, Paris, and he's originally from Marseille, which is why he's a Marseillais, and he'll talk about that, as I told you earlier. And right now he is in Barcelona, and I'm welcoming here, so honored to have you here, Tristan Pelloux. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Stefan. Very excited to be here.
It's brilliant. I love our conversation. We spoke. What I do, listeners, if you don't know that, everybody who's on the podcast, we always have a little bit of an energy check-in. And we were laughing so hard when we were kind of doing our little pre-meet prior to the podcast last week. So again, thank you so much for being here. I mean, I kind of put you on the spot already, right? A little bit. I said, you're the Marseillais, or you told me about the Marseillais. And you said, well, you know what? I'm a little bit more of a nut job. That's what people call us from Marseille. Why is that?
So I guess people in the south of France have this reputation to be a bit more Latin than the north part of France. Because you see, like, if you look at France, because it's in the middle of Western Europe, there's a bit of influence from everywhere, and in the north they're a bit calmer, like the Nordics, and the south they're a bit more Latin. And so in Marseille, where we are quite the Latin type. So when I went studying in the Great North, for me, in Brittany, in Nantes, suddenly I was Le Marseillais, and people thought I was loud and very direct and all that good stuff, really.
I love it.
So I don't know what's all the fuss about this.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you do now. And I think people still today, when they hear fintech entrepreneur, a lot of people go, what is that? Is that like a shark? Is it fintech? What is it? And I think maybe you can help in a simplistic way, not only talk about what you do, but maybe give all our listeners maybe 30 to 60 seconds, maybe a little more, whatever you think is appropriate, of a brief education. What do you do? What's fintech? And how people easiest maybe can learn about it, can connect to.
So what do I do? After a few years in corporate strategy in London for Mr. Branson, I set shop in Barcelona, where I advise fintech startups, and I also run a small media on fintech called Fintech Review. And so for me, fintech is really innovation in financial services. So that's the broad way to look at it, because, well, technically it's financial technology. So any technology you're using to deliver financial services, but I take a broader view. So I spend a lot of time in fintech stuff, and I have for many years, because I'm quite interested in innovation. I like that you have companies out there that are, okay, I'm looking at this problem, I'm going to find a way to solve it, and I'm going to do better than these other guys are doing like a bad job at what they're doing. I'm not mentioning the banks, but that's what I'm mentioning. And so that's why I really like this space, and it has changed so much over the years.
No, that's awesome. Now, if people are looking for resources, some people, I mean, particular our younger listeners, they may say, I want to learn more about fintech. Are there particular, if that's your own, I think if you're still writing a blog, is that right?
Yeah. So on Fintech Review, we do have like fundamentals. So looking at the basics of what is fintech,
Yeah.
what are the things you should consider in personal finance. So my idea with this was to go like try to bring everybody. So from the people that don't know anything about it to the people that know more but are interested in going deeper into some specifics of the industry.
Yeah, love it. That's awesome. So I know when we spoke, you shared with me the story that leaving kind of, let's call it, large corporate and moving to Barcelona, and I think there's also a little bit of a personal pivot story behind it. Like, it was a great big personal decision for you to go to Barcelona, uh, uh, and I'm always fascinated by entrepreneurs who have the guts to say, you know what, I'm out of here. I'm going to go to a city I want to really be at. And what's the lessons you can share, but also some of the things you've learned while kind of packing up and moving to Barcelona?
Yeah, exactly. So I guess after a few years in London, it's a great city, but I came to the realization that this wasn't the city I wanted to settle for a long time. And so just before COVID, I told my boss and the boss of my boss, we had a good relationship. So I said, look, by the summer, I'll be out of, by the summer 2020, COVID was something in China. And I was like, "Oh, I'll be out of here. It's time for me to change things." There was no like a real plan to come. It was to come to Barcelona, and we'll see. So this was just before, and then the whole mess started, and I thought, okay, is it actually a good idea to quit your job and change city and basically start again? And I was like, yeah, because we don't know how long this is going to last. And mind you, this is where people thought this is a few weeks of a mess. So I decided, you know what, I'll still leave. I'll still find something to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's it was like more a personal decision that I needed a change. From the corporate world to doing something different, trying something new in a new city that is a bit known for its quality of life. So I was like, okay, this is gonna be fun, and it's been fun. It's been quite good fun.
Sounds like it. I mean, you mentioned, the kind of the tunnel we're all still in, which is kind of the COVID tunnel. Hopefully, we're at the end of it and we're starting to see the light. It's not a train coming our way. But one of the things that I think as entrepreneurs, if we take on new ventures and we think we have a plan, and then we got to be flexible, we got to change, we got to adjust, we got to be agile, not just as human beings, but also potentially in our business setup and the way we imagine that we're going to do business versus what's the actual reality. How has that influenced your move from London and the initial impetus of saying, hey, I want to go to Barcelona. I'm going to leave the company here. I'm going to move to Spain. That's where I'm going to set up shop. That's where I want to be. And then COVID hits. How has that, what did you learn about yourself? What's kind of the lessons you can share to say to someone else, hey, if you think about that stuff, this is kind of the things you really want to think about?
Yeah, so I guess my plan was actually not what happened. Is that my plan was, I'm gonna move here. I'll take a few months off because we're in the midst of a pandemic and probably people are not hiring a lot, and then I'll see what I do. And actually, I started. I was like, oh, actually, maybe I should do like some consulting here and there, and it all started like this. Is that I was like, okay, because basically what I've learned is that my idea, I'm going to take a few months off, doesn't work with my is my state of mind is that after 3 days, I was like, okay, I'm going to incorporate a company and we're going to go. So the whole like I'll take a lot of time off and just chill um, didn't work a lot for me because I was just wondering, okay, what do I do now? What's going to happen? So it's not. I don't think it's stress. It's just like this need to be active and to do something, and even if it's to write or to actually do something that I'm building. I'm building something. I'm building assets. I'm building like a vision, a blog, or whatever.
Yep. Yep.
But so, yeah, so that's the primary thing I've learned, and yeah, and that you make plans, and this can be the best plan in the world. Then you start executing, or you don't even execute the plan. You just go with another plan that fits better, like the real moment. Because
Right.
the plan the personal plan at 6 months kind of don't make sense. I mean, they make sense when you write them down. And I was in January, I was like, right, oh, okay, I'll do this. And then come September, my plan has completely changed.
Completely changed. It's like the old days, right? When we used to write a business plan, you put the boat on the water and the wind comes and it goes somewhere totally different. And you got to start adjusting. It's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
holy shit, what just happened? Talk about, I think sometimes people are very fascinated when they hear people who have worked for companies. And I want to just ask that one question, if you allow me. You've worked for Virgin Money, and company culture at Virgin is a lot talked about. I talk in my other business I run, Human Innovation Garage. I talk a lot about culture. I talk about people. I talk about people dynamics. Was it what was your experience with Virgin and working for the company there and spending a little bit more than 5 years with Virgin Money?
So in reality, I mean, it's a bit more complex in the sense that so I joined originally a business called Clydesdale Bank that ultimately merged with Virgin Money, and then
Mm.
it became Virgin Money. So like, but I saw the culture, what you're saying in terms of culture. So when we merged in 2018, there was like this kind of not culture clash, but very different culture with Clydesdale Bank, a bank from Scotland. That was a subsidiary of an Australian bank for 30 years. Then kind of merging with Virgin Money, and the culture was obviously very different. And then you end up with kind of mix between the two, where I didn't see one culture like taking over the others. And as you say, the culture at Virgin is it kind of permeates around all across all the businesses, like from airlines
Yep.
to trains to money. Um, this culture of innovation, of customer service. It's really quite fascinating, especially when you have businesses are in such different industries,
Hmm.
where you can see that they're the same businesses from the way they operate, and even though it's very different companies behind, because usually Mr. Branson takes like business partners that run the businesses. Actually, he doesn't run anything like except like he takes stakes in companies. So it's quite interesting that all these businesses end up were like being run in a similar manner, even though
Hmm.
they're very different. But I mean, the culture before that, and even after that, I didn't really mind the corporate cultures. It's just it's very obviously very different from when you're an entrepreneur,
Sure.
because it's not a culture of taking risks, or especially me, I was trying to do innovation projects. God, how it was going. Um, and but yeah, but I had a good boss, I had a good team, which makes a big difference when you're a big corporate. So
100%. I love that. I love that. I want to quickly take a minute and reintroduce our guest with us today. We're talking to Tristan Pelloux, and he is in Barcelona at the moment in Spain. He's a fintech entrepreneur, and my favorite title in his whole resume is Chief Pencil Officer. I want to talk about that Chief Pencil Officer for a quick moment. Why Chief Pencil Officer?
so I was like, editor sounds weird and boring. Well, most of the stuff I do is that I write or I edit things. So even though it's not a pencil, it's a keyboard. Still, I was like, CPO, Chief Pencil Officer, sounds
I
good.
love it.
So
I
I
love it.
invented it. I was like,
Yeah, I love that. When I saw it on your, I think it's on your LinkedIn as well. I
yeah.
absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. You just said something earlier about the entrepreneur and being able to adjust and having that flexibility and you know staying willing to change even if there's a plan. Give us some advice here, people listening, in terms of what are the things you got to watch out for. And I want to talk about, I would love for you to talk about you. What did you learn about yourself? Kind of the patience we sometimes have or don't have, the things that trigger us or don't trigger us, the things we get really upset and pissed about, and all that kind of stuff. So is there any things, are there any things, which I'm sure there are, and whatever you want to share here, please do, about the things you learned about yourself, or maybe people who are your family, people around you said, "Oh my God, I never realized you are whatever it is." I mean, they already called you a nut job in school, the Marseillais, right?
So I guess, I mean, being a guy with background in corporate strategy, I love a good plan, and I would plan everything, and I have my to-do list, and I plan.
Uh,
I love to plan, and the thing is, planning is not doing, and I guess you tend to overestimate, like, things are not gonna go like your way, or things are actually not going to happen. Is that what I was saying? Oh yeah, I'll take 3 months off. Yeah, but Tristan, you know that you're gonna just overthink from day one, which is what happened. So I didn't take this into my whole plan. Is that, of course, I wouldn't like it
yeah.
because it was obvious, but wasn't obvious to me, like, as I was doing my plan. So I guess what I learned is, like, resilience much more than I had before. Is that I knew I could work hard because I always worked hard, but it's a different of working hard. It's a kind of thing where you never have enough hours, and most of the things are not going in your way, and
Mm,
it doesn't. I mean, it's a sense of accountability as well. That when you're running a project in a corporate and it doesn't go in the right direction, then who cares? Like, you correct course or you kill the project and a few millions have been lost. Fine. If it's your own thing and it doesn't go your way, there's no one to blame, and there's
mm,
nothing really. You're just, like, the sense that you failed, and um, that something is not going well, and you take much more, like, personally, like
yeah,
something not a failure, that, like, a professional failure before. I was like, okay, well, I mean, it's too bad. Or sometimes I was taking it more personally, like on
sure.
projects I had worked on. But right now, it's much more personal. Everything is much more personal.
There's a consequence there, right? To your own, not just your own pocket, but also it's like you become less forgiving with yourself than potentially with a group of people or within where the risk shift is a little bit there.
Yeah, exactly. Is that now it feels like everything is a personal failure when the business doesn't go as I planned. Whereas before, you could find excuses. You could be like, oh,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
Bob in accounting is a dickhead.
yeah,
Whereas now it's like, oh, okay, well, it's just it's if you run the show, then suddenly everything is much more
yeah.
personal.
You said something which I thought was a brilliant line a couple of minutes ago. You said planning is not doing. Love that. What's the the kick in the ass where you kind of move from planning and I gotta do it? What's kind of the motivating factor for you there? What's kind of the exclamation mark where you say I gotta stop planning, I gotta start executing, I gotta start doing? Because I think it's very easy, to sit there and say, let me plan a little more, let me plan something else, and we got like 500 planning tools from from Trello to Asana and you name it. I mean, software is helping us to be procrastinators almost. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so I have to fight a bit my inner demons, which is I love to like make a plan, make a list. Like a to-do list is the best thing ever. And at some point, it's just that things are, especially my consulting business, things were not happening because kept on. Oh, I'm gonna make a list of all the platforms I could, whatever, or all the companies I can talk to, or I'll make like a list of all the people I need to catch up with. Yeah, but these are just lists and stuff
Yeah.
and plans, and
Yeah.
this is how
Yep.
I'm gonna go to people. This is the messaging. This is everything. But at some point, I was like, well, okay, I need to actually, talk to people. Otherwise, like nothing is gonna happen, or like send bloody applications. So this is where I realized, okay, Tristan, you're on your own. So if you don't do it, you don't have like an assistant that is gonna say, okay, fine, Tristan, I've seen, or someone working for you. So this is where I switch from being much more a doer than a planner. I still plan a lot, but I'm trying to do also a lot.
I'm going to ask you the same question I asked earlier. Advice for people listening to get off your butt and actually start doing. What's some of the tricks? What's some of the habits, the rituals you've created that help you with executing rather than just planning?
So it's actually a planning that I've turned into like a doing, which is, so I have my to-do list, and which is paper. I mean, there are lots of tools, as you say, but so the way I do it is that I have my to-do list and I write stuff that I want to do during the week, and then I also break it down, things I want to do during the day. And the thing I do is that at the end of the week, I'll go through the list. I'll take the things that I've done, the things I haven't done. I'll put like a cross next to it, and I will force myself to write it to the next page for next week. So this like process, it's like, okay, Tristan, you failed on all these accounts where you were supposed to do this, you didn't do it. You're supposed to do that. And actually, I found it quite a good motivation tool now, because I'm like, okay, I don't want to write down like 20 things for next week because I haven't done them. I haven't done them this week.
Right.
And I use the red pen as well to
like the teacher,
put a cross at Tristan. This is bad.
It's like 2 things over is I'm a little procrastinating. 5 things is I'm really procrastinating. And 10 is I'm a fucking asshole and I'm procrastinating too much, right? Is that it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it works well. I mean, it works for me.
I love it.
I'm like, I don't want to write another 10 things, and especially, So, and even if my list is long because I need to do a lot of things, well, too bad. It means I have a lot of work to do this week.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Any other tricks like that kind of are your tools of the trade? I love that list. Okay, I take the red pen instead of the blue pen. I see visually just on the next page on the next day. I see that immediately that's something which I'm carrying from the prior week. What other things like that people can maybe adopt and think about that can help them in their efficiency of running their own business as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I try to break down my days as much as possible, not to the minute, but for instance, I'll check my emails and check the news for a bit, and then I would literally close the email application. So I'm not tempted to look at, if someone sent me an email, because this is where you lose focus and
I love that.
You end up, I'm going to check my email. And then you get lost in your inbox for half an hour. So I close stuff. I'm letting like a few things open, and I'm like, okay, I'll do this task now.
Yeah.
It's done. Okay, I move to the other thing. So breaking down, because otherwise, emails are the worst. You can spend way too much time in your inbox.
I know. It's like when you go to a party and you're looking for directions, and before you know it, you're booking the next trip to go diving in the Maldives because you kind of found the ad on the right popping up on your search engine where you're looking for the directions. and then you're 45 minutes late to the party because you booked a new trip. I so relate to that. Tristan, what's the best way if people want to learn more about you and people want to connect with you? How should people connect with you, and where can they find you?
So they basically can find me anywhere because I'm everywhere. So they can reach out on LinkedIn. I'm always keen to talk to new people. They can send me an email on hello@fintechreview.net. They can find me on Instagram, on Twitter as well, on Fintech_review. So you can find me a bit anywhere and everywhere and send me messages. I do like say pinky swear I'll answer all the emails. Sometimes I take a bit of time because, as I said, I'm closing my inbox, but eventually I'll come to it and I'll answer because I think it's the polite thing to do. So, which is what I do. I mean, when I was working in corporate, people thought I was crazy because even random requests I would answer, and I don't like ignoring people. I think it's rude, and if you're taking the time to send me an email, I'll answer.
I love that. That's like the good old school of Jack Welch, who used to say, I return everybody's phone call. And that was the days when voicemail was the big thing still. And he would return people's phone call, as far as I understand, between 8 and 10 at night when other people would be gone from the office. But he would make a point that every voicemail and message he received, he would return at the end of that business day, which is what I'm hearing that you're doing as well, which I love. Maybe it's not the same business day. But as you said, I think the mutual respect, it's probably because we have a Frenchman here who has the grace of business as well and the elegance of business, which I think elegant leadership is really something that I think sometimes we forget about that, and the grace and the respect we need to give people. Tristan, any final words, any final thoughts, anything that we haven't talked about that you think could be interesting to our listeners? Any advice, any thoughts?
No, I think you said it all. Like the last thing you said is that I don't think you need to be a dick to be a good leader, and I look more to leaders that are compassionate and that are good people. You can see them; they're good people, and then you have the kind of the dictator ones, and I'm like, dude, what the hell is wrong with you? So yeah. So my final advice is don't be a dick.
I love that. I love that. That's some clear words, right? Clear words. That's bold but compassionate and with kindness. I love that. Tristan, thank you very, very much. Really, really appreciate you being here. I know it's a late evening for you almost. Although, no, it's like for where Tristan is, as we're recording that, it's just about 8 o'clock at night. No, not quite. 6 o'clock at night. I'm looking 6:30. And so he's getting ready for a little bit cerveza somewhere in a restaurant, and then he's going to go home. He's going to dress up, and he's going to go out for dinner at 9:30, 10 in Barcelona. And he'll be having dinner until 1 o'clock in the morning. Very jealous of that. Absolutely love it.
Well, thanks for having me, Stefan. It was great to chat with you.
No, that was awesome. And I always love when I have an accent on the podcast that makes me feel that I'm closer to home. Even though, there have been times in history and still today where sometimes the French and the Germans, they don't get along that well. But you get the better soccer team right now, so I got to admit that. And congratulations to France, because you just won the Nations Cup again.
Yeah.
Guys, my name is Stefan Thiringer. I'm your host here at Raw Rants. Thank you again to Tristan Pelloux, who was with us today from Barcelona. He's a fintech entrepreneur. He's the chief pencil officer. And favorite quote of the day is this, guys: planning is not doing. And there's another one he just said, and I'm going to say it, be offended or not, you don't have to be a dick to be a good leader. I love that one too. You can find us on all major platforms. Connect with us. If you're a new friend, please, please, please hit the subscribe button to our podcast, and you find us on all major platforms. That's on Spotify, that's on Apple, that's on Pandora, or wherever else you get your podcast fix. And please also go look Tristan up on LinkedIn. connect with him there and connect with us as well. And you'll find him on all major media platforms and social media platforms. And you find us on all media platforms as well. We have a website called rawrants.com. Connect with me personally on LinkedIn, connect with us on Instagram, and most certainly on Facebook and Twitter. And we have only one thing left now. If you've listened to us, I can't speak today, friends. If you've listened to us before, you know what's coming. We're going to dance it out. Tristan, you and I are going to dance it out with a little music. And this was Raw Rants today with Tristan Pelloux. And this is Stefan and Tristan out.